Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. 3 o'clock location. We've got Meyara returning as the midnight blue or royal blue. Dark blue. It's just dark blue. Bottom left-hand corner, we've got Yaqoob or Yaqoob. He is the Magenta Protoss. He's a very vocal player, I will say, when I've seen him around. This is on Dominator, 3-player map. Got the hallucinated mineral fields. You know what's funny? I remember going into this map and checking to see whether they spawn. I think they only spawn in the upper left-hand corner. That's just weird, only things commentators would know, but I don't remember seeing the mineral field hallucinated when I played it and checked the 3 o'clock location for comparison, so it's odd. That's a bit of StarCraft trivia. I'll have to verify that's true down the line, but man, talking about really, really obscure StarCraft trivia that no one would get right. I don't even know that I'll ever remember that. Anyway, Pylon dropped on the front. Overlord making its way top left. Both players going to the upper left for their initial scouts. Meyara went decently deep last season, if I recall. Didn't make it into the round of 4, but showed some good stuff. I'm not shocked to see him here again. And in the meantime, I think we actually might have Yaqoob in Twitch chat, by the way. Magenta Protoss, we'll see if he opts for Gateway first or Forge first. In the meantime, he's going to go up against Overpool. Meyara was very, very favored the Overpool last season quite a lot. I'm trying to think if he ever varied from it. It's one of those things going into... I wish I had... I feel like there's certain individuals, if you have the instant recall memory, there's certain people that they can just categorize things in their brain. Looks like it's a Forge first for a cube. Let me know if I'm mispronouncing that, by the way. I just feel like it's unfair to the rest of society where they could get late. They've really, if you're looking for the selection process of finding them, it's all the people on like Jeopardy and whatnot. They just flip through books, and then when they need information, it's just like a buzzer competition for them to sneak in and try to remember what page it was on. Denying the natural expansion is going to put a decent early game dent. Oh, second drone trying to come out. That's going to be halted. And interestingly enough, no mineral only. So this drone's going to go quite a ways. It looks like the hatchery did drop. That was a decent interruption here. 3 Zerglings are queued up. Upon seeing that drone attempt to put the Nexus down, we actually have a Nexus and a photon cannon warping in. The probe gets wiped out, which could hurt, but I believe the photon cannon will be in plenty of time. Second cannon just in case, and likely a gateway will be on the front as well. Just to be safe, I am curious if a probe is going to pull to plug the gap, because I think you can actually sacrifice a handful, because this is not sealed. And what you can do is you can sacrifice a few Zerglings. That's nice on Yaqoob. Yeah, just moving up and attacking the Forge, because you cannot hold position in that probe, by the way, at this stage. So this probe, one Zergling loses its life. The others are shook, going to hold there. But wisely holding that just to make sure no additional Zerglings filter through. Extractor just finishing at 322, and we do have that third hatchery up, but notably this hatchery not yet complete because of a lot of the interruption that already happened. So in a very rare instance, you have that natural expansion up before the Zerg's natural expansion. So big, solid economic lead here for Yaqoob, although he did have to invest an additional 150 in that cannon on the front. In the meantime, he's got his assimilator finishing, cybernetic score being constructed. We'll see what tech path he opts for, and because that probe has been wiped out on the front, it looks like there might be a 973 attempt. I know that it's a lot of Zerg's knee-jerk reaction when they are able to wipe out that initial scout to go for 973. I think this is somewhat brave, however, and this might be a little bit of a signal. Oftentimes when the Overlord's playing a little bit more aggressively on site, sometimes that can be a tell. But Meyara saw the second cannon, so he knows there's already 2 cannons up rather than kind of the cheat 1 cannon, but fast second assimilator, which usually means we're going to see fewer gateway, lighter gateway tech, fewer units in the early game, more of a push towards tech, either in +1 weapons with the Stargate or with a Citadel of Adun and Dark Templar tech in early stages. We'll see if it turns into that. In the meantime, the prerequisite number of drones are starting to filter out towards each base, but speed being upgraded first, definitely going to be attacked. We got +1 weapons upgrading. Unfortunately, Yaqoob's not going to have a lot of forewarning, and at the moment, he's not sending that Zealot out to draw those Zerglings in to also get that test on the front lines. So running very, very low on information. This is as the Hydralisks are starting to enter the field. +1 weapons, yeah, being upgraded at the cybernetics score in the space of this. So I don't know. This is, I'm not going to say it's game yet because we could see a flood of cannons and some excellent probe micro, but right now it's going to be 2 Zealots, not a lot of information. That Corsair is not even going to be on the map before the Hydralisks are already making their way across the field. Range immediately kicked up as well here for Meyara, and he's holding the Hydralisk back, actually. It looks like, is he waiting? Defensive cannon drop from Yaqoob. It looks like he's maybe sniffed this out because 2 additional cannons have dropped as the Corsair moving out. He could also drop them, and then if he doesn't see anything with the Corsair, cancel them after the fact. But this was a solid investment right this second. Nice defense. So oftentimes you'll see Zerg get a little bit negligent on dealing with that Corsair when it enters the base. Let's see if Meyara still commits on the turnaround. Corsair able to, yeah, trying to find some overlords to blunt this. However, we only got 4 cannons, so 4 cannons. Lower cannon gonna get picked off very, very rapidly. The Hydra's backing back up to draw the Zealots away. Corsair working on the near side Overlord. And it looks like Meyara is gonna halt that assault there and go back into droning. Is Yaqoob gonna get the forward Overlord? Yeah, second trying to pick away at that Overlord. Gets it with the last shot, the last breath of that Corsair. Causes the visceral structure of that Overlord to fall apart. Forge should still... This is kind of an awkward spot to hit because the cannon can hit, but there are angles. Yaqoob testing the lines. Another cannon getting dropped. That cannon will cover the Forge, I believe. Never mind it. Not at this angle, though. Gateway Flood in the meantime for Yaqoob. He's got Zealot leg speeds on the way. +1 weapons has finished. In the meantime, we've got the drone flood, but we're still sitting at 26 drones. Lair just started up in the space of this. I think the Zealot attack going to be out pretty rapidly. Sim City starting to construct double hatcheries here at the third. Upper right hand corner is going to be fairly exposed. Unfortunately, the Corsair for Yaqoob not staying active and checking out the location to get a good verification as far as what the Sim City might look like. The natural expansion looks like it's going to be pretty solid. The evolution chamber is slightly exposed here. Now the Corsair makes its way out, but if he gets eyes top right, a lot of Zealots in the top right hand corner could create a lot of havoc. Second hatchery now getting dropped. That's going to bring the total count up to 6. And Lair Tech not that far from finishing. Drone surging. Very healthy worker count here for Yaqoob. Sitting off 5 gateways, has gone double Forge. Actually, triple Forge. Well, no, double Forge. First one's died. +1 weapons complete. Corsair now here in the corner. Upon spotting this, I'm wondering if he's going to wander out or just hold. There are no Hydralisks supporting, but he's just going to go ahead and get eyes. Wants to confirm Lair Tech. Lair Tech now confirmed. We have Lurker Tech, by the way, just starting. And a creep colony at the natural. Seeing these 3 hatcheries and the creep colony all in place. Yaquoob's still going to go for it. Running into a wall of Hydralisks, but able to get a pretty decent surround. And this is a lot of Zealots making their way out in the field. The Hydralisks now making their way back. Taking a lot of shots on retreat. They really want to get in between this wall. Matching speed, but still getting shot in the butt. Now, yeah, nice redirection, making the way to top right. And a single sunken colony and these 2 hatcheries with all these Hydralisks out of position is not going to be sufficient. This could be a lot of damage done top right. Let's see if Meyara is going to be prepared. It looks like he recognizes it a little bit late on the Hydralisk position, and he's holding short. If Yaqoob moves immediately, he could wreak a lot of havoc top right. The Hydralisks now on delay. They do have a shorter control route. Looks like they were able to wipe off a near side Zealot. And as the Hydralisk position, a nice pincer attack from Yaqoob, going to be able to pin those Hydralisks in from both directions. Trying to retreat back, but they're going to lose a lot. In the meantime, the Zealot's still roaming free. having a little bit of trouble regathering themselves, but that was a lot of dead Hydralisks, and all of a sudden Meyara's supply has plummeted in comparison to Yaquoob's. He's actually in a position now where Meyara's got to be a little bit shook. He really can't move out until he gets some additional lurkers out in the field. It would be brave to go grab a third, but I think it's possible at this stage. Instead, we're going to see more gateways planted on the front, and we're going to more likely play conservatively until the upgrades continue, recognizing that there's off the double forge a potential upgrade advantage overall. A lot of Zerg players will be and they'll focus on getting those lurkers out on the ground, and they'll be negligent on the evolution chamber tech on these setups, which give Protoss, when they're going for these gateway floods, an advantage when they're able to get the double forge out. Meyara didn't dedicate an overlord into the corner, and actually it looks like some dragoons. Wow, kind of an odd pathing for them. I tell you what, now they got to go through this little gap. Yeah, I tell you what, dragoons are something else. Definitely like you know, in like Disney universe, they're like the goofies of everything. Does that make Mickey Mouse High Templar? Anyway, pretty decent side storms on the front. Looks like Hydralisks were able to dodge a little bit out of it, but taking some significant damage. We don't have observers on the field as of yet, and the Zealots, ooh, getting shredded. Currently, they were weakened from the earlier assault, and they're getting drawn back over and just getting raked on those front lines. Yaqoob moving up into what might be a future 9 o'clock base. Did we have a robotics? It looks like robotics got neglected potentially in the space of this. Yeah, and it looks like we're going to have that gateway wiped out to allow the dragoons go through. Okay, there's the robotics. We have an observatory. Observatory's just finishing, and we have an additional base now going into place for Meyara. Meyara, honestly, he's got some idle drones, but he really missed. He dodged a bullet, and Yaqoob going to go ahead and try to play a little bit sneaky here, grabbing a third at an off position. So he's relying on the fact that Meyara is going for a soft contain, might check the 9 o'clock, but as a result might miss everything top left. That being said, Meyara is grabbing a base bottom right. However, if Yaqoob can get this up and get a lot of cannons in place, actually having to take down his own gateways, hurts a little bit. It's 150 supply. He's going to cancel the, didn't cancel the High Templar, so lost a portion of gas in the midst of that. At least his dragoon, well, as soon as these dragoons move, the rest of the dragoons can get through. I'm telling you, Goofy. +2 weapons, +1 armor in place, and this is as it's just +1 weapons, and quite a distance away from +2. In the meantime, the attack unit that was top left has now moved into top right once again. High Templar are lagging a bit, but they should get some decent side storms over the drone lines as they move into position. Going for the Hydralisks rather than the drones. Okay, there's the second storm. Only catching about 3 or so drones. That could have been a lot worse for Meyara. Sending at a pretty decent drone count, but an big beefy Archon making his way in and getting some additional drone kills. That being said, the drone count still decently healthy, but the Nexus going up top left. The problem for Yaqoob is being able to migrate troops that direction. It's going to be a long time before he's going to be able to break through this lurker line. And he's going to have constant reinforcements that direction, so he needs to build on site and get things mining from there. Marching out, the Hydra's a little bit slow. Good side storm from Yaqoob. That could have been, wow, I was expecting that to last a lot longer, and instead, with a beautiful side storm over the reinforcing Hydralisks, Yaqoob able to melt this forward line defense. They are in a spot of trouble right now. He's got a lot of drones, but he's down on supply. He's down on upgrades. I don't know that this this fourth base is going to hold. If Yaqoob makes his way out, he can now transfer drones top left and work with the 3 bases. Does have +2 weapons. Is he making his way towards Hive Tech? He doesn't have a 4th gas as of yet, and oftentimes Zerg will not preemptively go to Hive Tech and sometimes sit too long on Layer Tech, honestly. I think it's worth it even just to get the upgrades going, especially going up against Double Forge. Dragoons making their way in, getting flanked on multiple fronts, but again, with the upgrade, well, I guess +2 weapons is there in place now, which will help quite a lot in these engagements. And if you do the drone deduction, this is not a large army here for Meyara. Finally getting some lurkers in place, but 2 observers making their way forward, and they're not being focus fired. The Lurkers, as they're grouped, getting some good batch fire on the Dragoons, however. Reinforcements coming from the north, and I think Yaquub's done it off the 3 base. Needs to remuster his forces and maybe reinforce this. Never mind, as I say that, 6 additional Hydralisks and Lurkers going to push this back. And we're looking at a long game now. Let's see if Yaqoob moves up and grabs that 4th base shortly. We'll see if Meyara also expands to the top right. Corsair's still out here to kind of spot things. Additional hatcheries dropping, by the way. We do have that additional extractor. And do we have the subsequent? We don't have the Queen's Nest plopped down as of yet. And the evolution chambers, we got 2 of them, but only one of them is firing right this second. As I say that, as though I've summoned it, the Corsair now poking away at that Overlord. No Spire, by the way. Through the long haul here. Natural expansion is mined out, as is the main. So briefly, Yaqoob dropped to 1, and that was because of a heavy probe saturation off those 2 bases. So he's got a decent supply chunk. He needs to grab some additional bases in a hurry, and potentially, if he can, look at all those probes waiting for something to mine. He needs to grab additional bases. If he grabs this mineral only, that could be the disaster base. Usually that's the last base you want to grab because it is in a, as I've called it before, it's kind of that valley of death. Hydral swarming this troop to the north. They're not in huge numbers. And I think Meyara recognizes it. It's going to go ahead and draw back. Hatchery at that top right corner should be interrupted by that Zealot. Looks like that is in fact coming to pass. Zealot's pressing down. They want to go ahead and check the opposite side valley of death to make sure that Meyara isn't trying to grab anything. The Hydral is going to be sacrificed as they're pinned into that wall. There are Lurkers on the near side to prevent anything else. It looks like the probe's already distance mining here at the 9 o'clock, and a lot of cannons in place with the High Templar top left. Yaqoob continuing to press and Psystorm, happy to go ahead and get value trades at this location. Going maybe a little bit too deep with those Zealots. Softening them quite a bit. More Zerglings streaming their way out. Keep in mind this is without Hive Tech. Hive Tech just started, so these Zerglings are not as threatening as they might be in the late stages. And the Psystorm's just obliterating them. Are even speed upgraded? I don't think they've got speed upgrade yet either. They're kind of just limping out there. And the Dragoons could probably just micro against this and walk back. This is forcing out a lot of units from Meyara. He's still sitting at a healthy drone count. Somehow defended top right against the single Zealot. Looks like that Hydralisk got a kill. I'm guessing that Zealot was on a attack maneuver. Triple sunken to try to defend the ramp on that low side. Probes regathering at the 9. Yaqoob, if he actually really wants to stay relevant, might think about trying to go to the upper left preemptively. He's still, and getting those idle drones, needs to get them out in the field. Is going to finish up some critical endgame upgrades here. Going to get up to level 3 weapons, level 2 armor, which will put him in a really solid position here. However, +2 weapons, +1 armor is complete on the opposite side, and Hive Tech is not that far from complete. Zergling speed being upgraded, and as soon as that Hive Tech adrenal upgrades are finished, it's they're very, very good at building shred. Like to see the robotics at this stage as well. I would love to see this army actually kind of bully its way this direction. Clear that out, grab an initial base, and then just drop some robos. In the meantime, drones from Meyara making their way into the main. The natural expansion has been expended. The main has actually been expended as well. Rare to see from a Zerg, but the drone count has been very, very high through these stages. It's kind of an interesting situation where Yaqoob, if he dives into this 1 o'clock base, which is already softened up, he could do some significant economic damage here. And as I say that, positioning the armies with some very beefy Archons. This is a distant reinforcement location for Meyara. He's only got that single sunken colony to try to provide any sort of support. You can see all of the blues scrambling up to try to make something happen, but I think it's going to be too little, too late, particularly with the +3 weapons online. That +3 weapons, especially with the Archons, shreds through buildings so rapidly. If they can get the shot right now, they're going to hold the ramp. Oh, this is an interesting... Okay, they hold the ramp. Is Meyara going to have the presence to back up now? Because if he tries to press into this gap, that's just inviting Psystorm in bad trades. on the low side. I think he's thinking he wants to try to dive in to reclaim this. Instead, taking some... Yeah, oof, look at that Psy Storm. That is exact... Oh, poor Meyara. All of a sudden, Yaqoob's 60 supply up. We do have a group of Hydralisks camping the low ground here. 3 Zealots are going to run into them and be dispatched summarily. Oof, some lurkers cleverly planted from Meyara on the retreat line. I'm gonna get some free kills. Looks like the rest gonna go ahead and push back in. Now, is Yaqoob going to fight over the mineral only, where the Hydralisks are positioned, or I think it just makes more sense to go top left and just leave that fallow for later stages potentially. He's also got, he could also go hatchery hunting right this second with his supply advantage, but I'm not sure he's got a really good grasp on Meyara's supply in comparison here. We do have the Defiler Mound also dropping. I think the problem for Meyara right now is he's down on upgrades. Just barely, +3 weapons there, but still with this many Archons, this is so many Archons, holy cow. With this many Archons, I don't know. We do have 3 Sunkens, and this is a nice choke, but we could see the rotation to the north, and honestly, I don't know that there's enough. We'll see if there's enough to defend here. It might come down to Psy Storms. That being said, the High Templar is going to get segregated from the army, might get picked off. Actually, almost catches some drones on transition. Yeah, High Templar gets picked off on that corner. Yaqoob at least not going low ground to high ground, but this is a crazy amount of lurkers here. Psy Storm everywhere. The Archons have eyes in the sky to at least spot the lurkers, but everything melting right here. And all of a sudden we have a massive unit reset on both sides of the map. Not a good engagement there from Yaqoob. I will say he's in a better position to resupply, however, after the fact, because we have distance mining at the 1 o'clock. This base almost mined out. Bottom right looks like, okay, never mind. We got 6 o'clock is grabbed, but not yet saturated. So 2 base versus, and we have a little bit of minerals left here for an emergency. Wow, what do these units think they're doing? Looks like they're going off to that High Templar. Going very, very deep. Okay, drones saturating here the 6, so we got technically 4 base Zerg versus 2 base Protoss. Once everything gets saturated, Zealot wandering up just to check the scenario top right. Meyara, interestingly enough, more spread out, and you have this Overlord that's kind of just migrating between the 2 bases to the upper left to see if Yaqoob is going to try to grab those. 30 supply down for Meyara, but he does have the Defiler Mound out, and Consume is almost finished. And as soon as Plague is on the map, it can be a challenge. He's also having trouble getting enough minerals here. I think he recognizes this is going to go to late stages. Is already upgrading the shuttle speed to maybe go for some High Templar drops on the back lines and continuing the upgrade path across the forges. And that will be, the shield upgrades become all the more important in the late game as Defiler Plague is in place, because you end up dropping a lot of health, and so it's much better to have the shield upgrades towards the later stages. Yaqoob moving around. I think he wants to double check the interior 3 o'clock. He's got a significant supply lead. There are a lot of lurkers, and we do have Defilers here. The Defilers, Plague is still upgrading, however. A lot of these Dragoons and a little bit of the Archon damage can be negated with the Dark Swarm, but there's a significant swarm of Zealots and no Plague to make up the difference, and not enough lurkers. This might be game ending right here. Dragoons filtering through. Keep in mind, Dark Swarm does not protect buildings. Zealots pushing in, going to be able to wipe out that forward evolution chamber. Psy Storm catching a lot of units as they're spawning. The Dragoons are actually boxing out the rest of the units, so the Hydrals cannot do damage. So this is benefit now. You can see where the Hydrals can't do damage to anything underneath the Dark Swarm. Works both directions. Some Zerglings at least filtering in. They do not yet have the Adrenal upgrade. So the Dragoons and Archon gonna trade better than expected. Yaqoob gonna go ahead and back out in the midst of this, recognizing his army has been dwindled, but got some significant damage done. Not a lot of raw economic damage, but was able to clear out a sunken colony and was able to clear a lot of units. And he got this Nexus up on the low ground. This is going to be very difficult to hold. Do we have a drone? Yeah, going top left in the space of this. This gets so difficult and challenging to hold. At the moment, looks like Yaqoob, despite the Dark Swarm, is going to be able to push back the Lurkers and Hydralisks, but he's going to need to keep eyes in this vicinity consistently. He's going to get that Defiler as it's trying to retreat. A couple Scourge, by the way, making their way up. I think they want to try to pick off the observers to allow, but there's no, okay, we got 3 Lurkers nearby. 2 Reavers and Shuttles to try to negate that Dark Swarm. I was expecting High Templar. We have a counterattack, no Defiler, so these cannons I think will be sufficient, particularly with the Psystorm. We'll keep an eye here top left. But the Reavers pushing in, ugh, they don't want to face plant into the Hydralisks. Another attack on the front. Do we have enough? No. The Defiler just marching out, getting wiped out. I think these Hatcheries are going to fall. In the space of this, the Hydra's trying to sit behind, but this is a lot of units. In the meantime, a Dark Swarm has moved in at that position to go ahead and maybe, so this could be a 3 hatchery for a base trade. Plague has landed. Yaqoob with a massive supply lead, and we got Lurkers unburrowed, scrambling on the exterior. Still no adrenal upgrades on the Zerglings, which is really negating the potential damage. Meyara just limping the minerals in right this second. So these 3 hatcheries going to be gone. It looks like that Nexus is going to drop top left, which is going to put Meyara down to, or sorry, Yaqoob down to 2 bases once again. But I think in exchange for 3 hatcheries and a potential strike on the main, at which point the Defiler Mound is gone. And if you lose that hive, those Zerglings are never going to get their adrenal upgrades. That could be a great situation for Yaqoob, the Defiler looking to hug the units as they die. It's kind of a slap fight underneath the Dark Swarm, neither unit getting any damage done. Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself sort of situation there. A lot of Overlords also kind of spread. Meyara needs to drop those higher tier tech units and another spawning pool. It's probably going to be too late. All of the tech units going to get wiped out, and critically that evolution chamber. That's a lot of time lost. He's in the red right this second. Zerglings dying as they spawn. Defiler cycling in. The Defiler actually might end up working against... Okay, never mind. Got a plague down. Didn't drop the Dark Swarm. How much is he going to save here? Evolution chamber holds. Lost the Hydralisk Den. Didn't lose the Defiler Mound. Didn't lose the spawning pool. And the hive is still alive, which is critical. That base top left, by the way, somehow stood. At the moment, though, all it is producing is gas. So we got the mineral only the 9 o'clock. The 6 o'clock is mining. The 12 o'clock is mining. But that is it, actually, for... So, actually, I take it back. So we got 3 base versus 2 base, effectively. And some gas limping in. But Yaqoob with a massive supply lead. 313 on the upgrades. Could punch through here at the 6 o'clock. It does not look like Meyara is in position to engage that. This Zergling's going to find the bulk of that army. Is this going to make its way back across? This would be a Pyrrhic victory here, top left. An empty base that's only mining gas for a fully functional base is a great trade any day. Looks like we're having a reposition towards the 9 o'clock, but again, similar situation where the minerals are just mining out. The drone's trying to pull out, and Yaqoob could actually just move in here to the 6 o'clock. I think that's going to be it. I think that's kind of the... Meyara going for a late game bad trade. Can wander in. Actually, the probes. Do their attack count as melee? I'm actually not sure under Dark Swarm if probes can attack Hydralisks. Yaqoob not stopping, by the way. Continuation attack. So now the 1 o'clock base is all that remains, and I think Meyara is going to end up losing everything in his main. His supply is plummeted. Completely dwarfed, and now it's just a cleanup operation for Yaqoob, basically. I honestly wonder how this game might have shifted if adrenal upgrades had been finished for the Zerglings earlier, or at all. But right now, Yaqoob in firm control, just wiping out everything. I'm surprised we haven't had a GG yet. Some additional Zerglings spawning. I think Meyara thinks because this base is mined out and this base is mined out, he's in a better situation than he is. And so I think he thinks, okay, if I just keep this army alive, I might be able to do something about this, drawing some zealots away at the very least. This is going to get wiped out. The 1 o'clock is next. Ultra's Cavern down. Interesting. I think that was an emergency drop from earlier just to have that option open. But as soon as Yaqoob makes his way towards the 1 o'clock, I don't see the standing unless we have some amazing observer pickouts. Also, Yaqoob still has the option to just kind of walk into the main and clear a lot of that hive tech, etc. out. By the way, Meyara just dropping some Scourge here just in case some shuttles were thinking about making the way out. Push in. We do have that spore colony, which can be very, very challenging, but looks like we already have that observer upgrade. Zealots having trouble making the way to the front, so this might be more costly for Yaqoob than usual, but some pretty good side storms on the follow-up. Hydros do not want to fight under this. The Reaver making its way forward. Should be able to clear out the remaining Reaver. And now we have a bulkhead to march in. Yaqoob can just move his way across. And that should be it. Kind of the flagging moments here. Shuttle scooping things up. But yeah, just needs to move everything up. And that should be game. And a little bit of a counterattack here to try to clear out the mining base. Yeah, I think Meyara just thinks he's in a better position than he is right this second. But the 1 o'clock is going to get wiped out. Yaqoob still has 2,000 minerals in the bank. A lot of lurkers up here, though, but they're bunching up. Want to see the Reaver drop and just plop a single Scarab into the midst of this. Maybe two? Oh. Well, okay, that's actually working out better than expected. Do we have any Side Storm to take care of this? Shuttle's been wiped out, by the way. Actually, a really nice exchange here from Meyara at the north. He actually might stand here. Wasn't able to take out the Nexus, however, and still hasn't gotten an additional mining base on top of this. But he's pushed back a lot of Yaqoob's forces. If you do kind of the deduction, the army's actually even, so maybe I called Meyara out of this a little bit too early. Yaqoob's still in a pretty good position, however. Got a Nexus at the 12 o'clock coming into play. Might end up losing the Nexus at the low side, depending on Plague and or Dark Swarm from this Defiler. Gonna do some bonus consume on the Scourge to go ahead and get the Plague off. No, gonna go Dark Swarm first, then the Plague. That does not help these Hydralisks out, by the way, with that Zealot underneath. But they can focus that Nexus down. However, these probes can just easily get transferred to this new 1 o'clock base, and we've got a slew of cannons plopping down, and I don't think Meyara has an answer for that, and he's got dwindling resources to be able to respond. Now is an opportunity to go ahead and grab, well, one, get the mineral field in the bottom right back in place, but also to grab kind of the emergency minerals there. We are swarming to the High Templar, and it looks like we don't have enough storm, but enough zealots able to pounce on top of those lurkers and clear that out rapidly. Keep in mind, Archons also end up with their splash damage, which is not insignificant under Dark Swarm, although it does end up displaced. Dead unit middle, looks like these Hydralisks are gonna get cleaned up. And so we got two Defilers and drones trying to defend themselves initially. Once they saw the Reaver, thought better of it. Yaqoob going for the final blow now. Now that, yeah, going back out, we do have a Plague. Drones offering themselves up to try to halt this attack force. Usually a bad sign. There's GG. Yaqoob takes game one. And a pretty extended match. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.